What if I told you that in a single night, an 18-year-old silenced a room full of powerful leaders, celebrities, and fierce critics using nothing but the power of his words? It might sound improbable, but that's exactly what happened. His name is Barron Trump, known for his reserved demeanor, rarely in the spotlight, despite carrying one of the world's most recognized surnames. But that night, in the middle of a charity gala, he did something no one expected. A direct provocation by a renowned journalist triggered a moment that would be etched in history forever. Picture yourself in a luxurious ballroom, surrounded by laughter, speeches, and the glitter of power. The atmosphere was celebratory until the journalist's acid humor transformed the environment into an uncomfortable silence. That's when Barron decided to act. What happened next wasn't just a response. It was a lesson in maturity, empathy, and respect that resonated far beyond that night. Today, we're going to dive into this incredible story and understand how that moment revealed something the entire world needed to hear. Stay with me until the end, because you'll discover why this speech changed everything and how it continues to impact people worldwide. The lessons you'll learn could transform the way you handle difficult situations in your own life. Don't miss the powerful message that made even the harshest critics stand in applause. If you're ready to discover how a young man turned a moment of conflict into an unforgettable lesson about dignity and respect, hit that like button right now and subscribe to our channel. Trust me, this is a story you won't want to miss, and the wisdom shared at the end might just change your perspective forever. Let's begin this remarkable journey together. The renowned journalist stepped onto the stage with the confidence of someone who had commanded countless rooms before. His reputation preceded him, a master of wit who could slice through social pleasantries with surgical precision. The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow as he adjusted the microphone, his trademark smirk already playing at the corners of his mouth. His opening jokes were masterfully crafted, drawing genuine laughter from the well-heeled crowd. He started with light observations about the event's extravagance, playful jabs at politicians present, and witty commentary about current events. The audience was in the palm of his hand, their polite chuckles growing into hearty laughs as he established his rhythm. But as the minutes ticked by, a subtle shift occurred in his delivery. His humor began to take on a sharper edge. What started as gentle ribbing evolved into more pointed commentary. He targeted various guests, each joke carrying a bit more sting than the last. The laughter in the room became more nervous, more uncertain, as guests wondered who might be next in his crosshairs. When his attention finally turned to Barron Trump, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. "And here we have someone who's practically a mystery to all of us, don't we?" he began, his voice dripping with false warmth. The crowd shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It's fascinating, isn't it? Growing up in such a loud family and yet remaining so silent. His pause was deliberate, calculated for maximum effect. The journalist's next words cut deeper, suggesting that Barron's reserved nature wasn't a choice, but a deficiency. "One has to wonder," he continued, his tone mock thoughtful, "is it that he has nothing to say, or is silence just his way of saying nothing?" Some nervous titters echoed through the room, but the discomfort was palpable. He pressed on, his words growing bolder, more caustic, suggesting that the young man's quietness was a sign of lacking substance or personality. The room's energy had completely transformed. What began as an evening of entertainment had devolved into something far more uncomfortable. Some guests stared into their wine glasses, others exchanged worried glances, while a few brave souls dared to look at Barron, wondering how the young man would handle such a public challenge to his character. The tension in the grand ballroom was electric. Every eye followed Barron Trump as he rose from his seat with a grace that belied his 18 years. His movements were measured, purposeful, like a chess player contemplating their next decisive move. The soft rustle of his designer jacket as he adjusted it seemed deafening in the growing silence. The crystalline chandeliers cast a gentle glow on his tall frame as he began his deliberate walk toward the stage. His footsteps echoed across the marble floor, each step amplifying the anticipation that had gripped the room. The previously confident journalist now shifted uncomfortably at the podium, his earlier bravado diminishing with each step Barron took. Distinguished guests who moments before had been nervously averting their eyes now couldn't look away. CEOs, politicians, and celebrities who were accustomed to commanding attention found themselves holding their breath. The air grew thick with anticipation, and even the wait staff paused in their duties, sensing that they were about to witness something extraordinary. As Barron approached the stage, his composure remained unwavering. There was no anger in his expression, no hint of the humiliation the journalist had attempted to inflict. Instead, his face carried a serene determination that made him appear older than his years. The silence that enveloped the room was absolute. Not a cough, not a whisper, not even the clink of cutlery dared to break the spell. The path to the stage seemed to stretch endlessly, yet Barron's stride never faltered. His presence, usually so carefully maintained in the background, now commanded the attention of every person in that opulent ballroom. The transformation was palpable. From a quiet observer to the focal point of what everyone sensed would be a defining moment. Standing at the podium, Barron Trump took a moment to survey the room. The silence was deafening, every eye fixed upon his tall frame. The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow across his face as he adjusted the microphone, his composure unwavering despite the weight of the moment. The journalist who had moments ago commanded the room now stood to the side, his earlier confidence visibly shaken. When Barron began to speak, his voice carried a depth and clarity that seemed to transcend his 18 years. There was no anger in his tone, no hint of retaliation or hurt pride. Instead, his words flowed with a measured grace that immediately captured the attention of everyone present. Respect isn't something we give because someone has earned it. He began, his voice steady and clear. It's what we offer, especially when we don't know someone's full story. The words hung in the air, their simplicity carrying a profound truth that resonated through the grand ballroom. Several guests nodded unconsciously, caught in the gravity of the moment. He continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. I've grown up hearing countless opinions about myself and my family. Some kind, others less so. But what I've learned is that our words often reveal more about who we are than those we're speaking about. The room remained perfectly still, hanging on every syllable. We live in a world where it's easy to mistake silence for weakness and restraint for lack of substance, he went on, his gaze sweeping across the room. But true strength isn't found in how quickly we can respond to provocation or how cleverly we can craft our attacks. It's found in our ability to choose dignity when faced with disrespect. His words carried a wisdom that seemed almost impossible for someone his age. Humor has its place in our world. It can bring joy, create connections, and ease tensions. But when we use it as a weapon, when we forget that behind every laugh might be someone's pain, we diminish not just others, but ourselves. As he approached his conclusion, his voice took on a tone of gentle authority that commanded attention without demanding it. Tonight isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about remembering that every person in this room, every person we meet, carries a story we may never fully know. And it's in those unknown chapters that we find our greatest reason for compassion. The power of his message lay not just in the words themselves, but in the dignified manner in which they were delivered. There was no trace of self-righteousness, no hint of revenge or triumph. Instead, his speech embodied the very respect and understanding he spoke about, transforming what could have been a moment of conflict into an opportunity for collective reflection and growth. As his final words echoed through the ballroom, "Let our words be bridges, not barriers. Let our differences inspire understanding, not division," the impact was palpable. The silence that followed wasn't the uncomfortable quiet of earlier. It was a moment of profound recognition, of collective understanding that they had witnessed something extraordinary. As the final words of Barron's speech hung in the air, a moment of profound silence gripped the room. Then, like a wave gathering momentum, the applause began. It started with a few individuals in the front rows, their hands coming together almost instinctively, before sweeping through the entire ballroom. One by one, guests rose from their chairs, creating a standing ovation that seemed to make the crystal chandeliers tremble. Distinguished CEOs, political figures, and celebrities who normally maintained careful composure were now openly moved, some wiping away tears, others nodding in profound agreement. The thunderous applause wasn't merely a polite gesture. It was a genuine recognition of something extraordinary they had just witnessed. The sound filled every corner of the vast room, echoing off the ornate walls and high ceilings. The journalist, still standing at the side of the stage, had undergone a visible transformation. His earlier swagger and confidence had evaporated, replaced by an unmistakable look of humility. He shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his tie and collar, as if the weight of the moment was physically pressing down on him. The man who minutes ago had wielded words like weapons now seemed small and insignificant in the wake of Barron's dignified response. The contrast was striking. While the journalist's carefully crafted jokes had earned him polite laughter, Barron's authentic words had earned him genuine respect. The young man's poise and maturity had not just won over the room, it had completely shifted the power dynamic. What began as an attempt to diminish had instead elevated, not through force or anger, but through wisdom and grace. Even the waitstaff, typically trained to remain invisible during such events, had stopped their duties to join in the applause. The entire room, regardless of status or position, was united in their recognition of this remarkable moment. The standing ovation continued far longer than customary, as if the audience was reluctant to let this powerful moment end. The impact of Barron's speech rippled through the digital world with unprecedented speed. Within the first hour, shaky smartphone footage from multiple angles flooded social media platforms. The initial clips, though imperfect in quality, captured the raw power of the moment. A young man standing tall against ridicule, transforming mockery into wisdom. Twitter exploded first, with hashtags like Barron Trump speech and respectful response climbing rapidly to worldwide trending topics. The video clips spread like wildfire across platforms, each new share adding personal commentary that resonated with viewers' own experiences. "This is what true strength looks like" became a common refrain in the comments sections. Instagram and TikTok creators began dissecting the speech, creating emotional edits that highlighted key moments. Some focused on Barron's composed walk to the stage, others on the journalist's changing expression, but most centered on those powerful words about respect and understanding. Short clips featuring the most impactful quotes, set against dramatic music and artistic visuals, garnered millions of views within hours. The digital response transcended typical viral content. Unlike the usual flash-in-the-pan social media moments, this sparked genuine dialogue. Comment sections, usually breeding grounds for conflict, transformed into spaces of reflection. People began sharing their own stories of facing public ridicule and choosing dignity over retaliation. News websites scrambled to publish articles, their headlines competing for attention. 18-year-old's response to public mockery becomes global lesson in dignity, and how Barron Trump silenced a room and inspired millions. Each new piece added layers to the story, exploring different angles of the impact. Professional commentators and social media influencers who initially rushed to create content about the event found themselves caught up in deeper discussions about the role of respect in modern discourse. What started as a viral moment evolved into a movement, with people actively questioning their own use of words and humor at others' expense. The digital explosion wasn't just about numbers, though. The metrics were staggering. It was about the quality of engagement. Educational institutions shared the video as a teaching tool. Corporate leaders referenced it in meetings about workplace culture. Mental health professionals pointed to it as an example of emotional intelligence in action. As translations appeared in multiple languages, the message crossed cultural barriers. From Tokyo to Toronto, Rio to Rome, people connected with the universal truth in Barron's words. Social media platforms, often criticized as amplifiers of division, became conduits for a message of unity and understanding. The transformative power of Barron's speech quickly found its way into educational institutions worldwide. Elementary schools, high schools, and universities began weaving the principles of his message into their daily curriculum. What made this particularly remarkable was how the speech resonated across all age groups, from young children learning about bullying to graduate students studying conflict resolution. In elementary classrooms, teachers used simplified versions of the speech to introduce concepts of empathy and respect. Students participated in role-playing exercises, practicing how to respond to mockery with dignity. The impact was immediate. Young children began showing remarkable insight into handling confrontations with their peers, often quoting Barron's words about respect being given freely. High schools incorporated the speech into their debate clubs and public speaking classes, using it as a masterclass in maintaining composure under pressure. Students analyzed not just the words, but Barron's body language, tone, and timing. Mock debates took on a new character, with participants focusing more on understanding opposing viewpoints rather than simply winning arguments. Universities developed entire case studies around the incident. Business schools used it in their leadership courses, psychology departments analyzed it for emotional intelligence studies, and communication programs made it a cornerstone of their conflict resolution modules. Professors reported a noticeable shift in classroom discussions, with students showing greater awareness of how their words impact others. Professional development programs for educators themselves underwent a transformation. Teachers attended workshops focused on implementing Barron's principles in their classrooms. They learned techniques for turning confrontational moments into teaching opportunities, helping students understand the power of measured responses to provocation. Corporate training programs embraced the speech with equal enthusiasm. Human resource departments developed new modules centered around workplace communication and conflict resolution. The focus shifted from traditional assertiveness training to more nuanced approaches of handling disagreements with dignity and respect. Leadership seminars used the speech to demonstrate how emotional intelligence can diffuse tense situations. Executives and managers studied how Barron's composed response not only resolved the immediate conflict, but elevated the entire discourse. The incident became a prime example of how maintaining dignity under pressure can transform a potential crisis into an opportunity for growth. Community organizations and youth groups also integrated the speech into their programs. Counselors used it to help teenagers navigate social media conflicts, while youth leaders incorporated its principles into anti-bullying initiatives. The message resonated particularly well because it came from someone young, proving that wisdom isn't limited by age. What made the educational impact so profound was its practical applicability. This wasn't just theoretical knowledge, it was a real-world example of how to handle provocation with grace, how to respond to mockery with wisdom, and how to transform conflict into opportunity. These lessons proved invaluable in an increasingly divided world where the ability to navigate disagreements with dignity had become a crucial life skill. The ripple effect continued as educational institutions reported tangible changes in student behavior. Conflict resolution became more thoughtful, discussions more nuanced, and disagreements more respectful. Barron's speech had provided something rare, a template for turning confrontational moments into opportunities for growth and understanding. The ripple effect of Barron's speech catalyzed a remarkable transformation in how people approached social interactions, particularly online. Organizations worldwide began incorporating his message into their initiatives, launching campaigns focused on digital citizenship and respectful online discourse. Words that connect became a global movement, with millions of participants pledging to approach online interactions with greater empathy and understanding. Youth organizations took the lead, creating peer-to-peer programs where teenagers mentored younger children about responsible social media use. High school students organized workshops and assemblies, sharing personal stories about cyberbullying and the power of responding with dignity rather than hostility. The movement gained particular momentum among Generation Z, who saw in Barron's message a blueprint for navigating the complex landscape of digital communication. Mental health professionals and social media platforms joined forces to develop guidelines for healthier online interactions. Major tech companies began implementing features that encouraged users to pause and reflect before posting potentially harmful comments. Some platforms introduced respect ratings that rewarded users for consistently positive interactions, while others created educational modules about digital empathy. Community organizations worldwide adapted Barron's principles to address local challenges. In urban neighborhoods, youth centers established dignity dialogues where young people could discuss conflicts and learn to resolve them respectfully. Rural communities organized town halls focused on bridging political divides through respectful discourse. Universities began incorporating elements of digital citizenship into their core curricula, recognizing that professional success increasingly depended on the ability to navigate online interactions with grace and wisdom. Business schools added modules on digital leadership, using Barron's speech as a case study in crisis management and ethical communication. The movement's impact was particularly visible in how people responded to online provocations. Instead of engaging in heated exchanges, many began responding with thoughtful questions and attempts to understand different perspectives. The phrase, "Respect isn't earned, it's given," became a common refrain in online discussions, often appearing in profile bios and social media signatures. Perhaps most significantly, the movement inspired a new generation of digital pioneers who saw technology not as a weapon for division, but as a tool for building understanding. They created apps and platforms specifically designed to foster meaningful connections and promote respectful dialogue across cultural and ideological divides. The story of that remarkable night transcended beyond a simple response to provocation, embedding itself into the collective consciousness as a testament to the transformative power of words. In an era where quick retorts and sharp comebacks are celebrated, Barron Trump's measured response offered a different path, one of wisdom, understanding, and profound dignity. The impact of his message resonated particularly deeply with those who face similar situations of public ridicule or confrontation. His approach demonstrated that strength isn't measured by the force of retaliation, but by the power of composure. Parents began sharing the story with their children, teachers with their students, and leaders with their teams, each finding in it a blueprint for handling conflict with grace. What made the message particularly powerful was its universality. Whether in boardrooms or classrooms, social media disputes or family disagreements, the principle remained the same. Responding to provocation with dignity isn't a sign of weakness, but rather a demonstration of profound strength. The story became a touchstone for those seeking to navigate difficult conversations and confrontations. The lasting impact manifested in unexpected ways. Conflict resolution specialists began incorporating the incident into their training materials, highlighting how Barron's response created a moment of collective reflection rather than escalating tension. Business leaders referenced it when discussing corporate culture and professional communication, emphasizing how measured responses could transform potentially volatile situations into opportunities for growth. Perhaps most significantly, the message challenged the prevailing narrative about power dynamics in public discourse. It showed that true influence doesn't come from the ability to deliver the most cutting remark or the cleverness of a retort, but from the wisdom to transform conflict into connection. Barron's response became a masterclass in emotional intelligence, demonstrating how self-control and empathy could disarm even the most pointed provocations. The enduring power of his message lay in its simplicity. Respect isn't earned, it's given freely, especially when we don't know someone's full story. This principle, delivered with such clarity by someone so young, continued to inspire people facing their own moments of challenge and conflict, reminding them that every confrontation carries within it the seed of transformation. The story evolved into a modern parable about the power of choosing dignity over retaliation, wisdom over wit, and understanding over judgment. It served as a reminder that in a world often divided by words, the right words, spoken with the right intent, could build bridges where walls once stood. As we reach the end of this remarkable story, let me ask you something. What would you do if faced with mockery or criticism in front of others? Would you fight back, stay silent, or transform the moment like Barron did? His story shows us that true power isn't in having the last word, but in choosing the right words. Think about it. An 18-year-old taught the world that responding to hate with dignity isn't a sign of weakness, but the ultimate display of strength. His message wasn't just about that night in the ballroom. It was about every difficult conversation we face, every heated argument we encounter, and every chance we have to choose respect over retaliation. Remember, your words are like seeds, and they can either grow into walls that divide or bridges that connect. Every day, we have the power to choose which seeds we plant. Will you use your words to tear down or to build up? Will you respond with anger or with understanding? The choice is yours, and it matters more than you might think. Before you leave, take a moment to reflect on how you can apply this lesson in your own life. And if this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and wisdom. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of respectful dialogue, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge us to be better versions of ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we all have the power to change the world one word at a time. The question is, what will your words build today?